I'm Sabrina, 32 years old. My nephew Raman was dying in the hospital while my sister went shopping with my husband. That's how it always was with Amanda. The kid could be turning blue and she'd be worried about missing a sale at Nordstrom while planning her next affair. I found myself pacing outside Ramon's room again, watching him sleep with those tubes snaking out of his little body. He was 13 and looked like he weighed maybe 90 lbs soaking wet. That pneumonia had hit him hard, and 4 weeks, we weren't sure he'd pull through. Charlie, his stepfather, sat beside the bed reading him a book about baseball. Charlie had been more of a father to Raman than anyone else in his life. Amanda wasn't even in the building. Again, she was out with my husband, David. Coffee, they called it. Months earlier, my sister had shown up at my door looking like something out of a magazine disaster. Charlie had left her with nothing after their divorce. No money, no house, nothing. He'd made sure she understood exactly what abandoning your responsibilities meant. I thought I was being noble, opening my home to her while she got back on her feet. Looking back, that might have been my biggest mistake. Where's his mother? The doctor asked when I arrived that morning at the hospital. Out, I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. She'll be back eventually. The doctor raised an eyebrow, but didn't push it. Charlie and I had been the ones answering all the medical questions anyway. We knew Ramon's allergies, his fears, what made him laugh. Amanda knew what size clothes to buy him. Maybe. Ramon had been in the hospital for 3 weeks with severe pneumonia. His lungs were so weak the doctors weren't sure he'd survive. And through it all, Amanda treated it like an inconvenient vacation. She'd stop by for an hour, take a selfie with Ramon looking sick in the background, and disappear to meet David for coffee. Yeah, you heard that right. Coffee. That's what they called it. Aunt Sabrina, Ramon whispered when he woke up. His voice was raspy from the breathing treatments. Did Mom come in today? I smoothed his hair back. She'll be here soon, honey. Anotherly. I was getting good at those. Charlie looked at me over Ramon's head with an expression that said everything. We both knew Amanda wasn't coming. She was probably at some spa with David, planning their next secret meeting while her son fought for his life. My husband, David, had been surprisingly supportive through all of this. He helped with Amanda's expenses without complaining, drove me to the hospital every day, and never once suggested that maybe Amanda should take more responsibility for her own child. Looking back, his generosity should have been my first warning sign. But you know how it is when you're in the middle of chaos. You miss the obvious stuff because you're too busy putting out fires. The nurse came in to check Ramon's vitals. His fever's breaking, she said with a smile. That's good news. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. Ramon was going to make it through this. He was going to be okay. What I didn't know was that his recovery was just the beginning of our real story. The thing about catching your sister with your husband is that movies never prepare you for how stupid you feel. Like monumentally, earth-shatteringly stupid. I'd been bringing Amanda groceries 4 months while she recovered from her divorce from Charlie. Turns out she was recovering quite well in my bedroom with my husband. I came home early from the hospital that day because Ramon was finally stable enough that Charlie could stay alone with him. I was excited to shower and maybe grab a nap before heading back. The house was quiet when I walked in, which should have been my first clue. Amanda's car was in the driveway, but she wasn't in the living room watching her usual afternoon drama shows. Then I heard it, that unmistakable sound that makes your stomach drop to your toes. And here's the thing that really gets me. I actually hesitated. I stood there thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe it wasn't what it sounded like because that's what good people do, right? We give everyone the benefit of the doubt, even when the doubt is paper thin. But then David laughed. That specific laugh he only did when he was really enjoying himself. The one I hadn't heard in months. I pushed open the door. Amanda was on top, her long blonde hair spilling over her shoulders like some twisted fairy tale. David's hands were tangled in it, and neither of them noticed me at first. They were too busy with each other to care about the woman who'd been supporting them both. Well, I said, and they both froze. This explains why you've been sounderstanding about the hospital bills. Amanda rolled off David without a hint of embarrassment. She pulled the sheet around herself, like she was the victim here. Sabrina, we didn't want you to find out like this. Oh, you didn't want me to find out like this? I walked further into the room and honestly, I impressed myself with how calm I sounded. How exactly did you want me to find out? Hallmark card skywriting. David finally found his voice. Sabrina, listen. No, I held up a hand. I don't want to hear it. I especially don't want to hear it from either of you in my bed. Amanda had the nerve to look annoyed. Don't be dramatic. These things happen. These things happen. Like adultery was something that just fell out of the sky, completely beyond anyone's control. "You're right," I said. "These things do happen. And now other things are going to happen, like both of you getting the hell out of my house." "You can't just throw us out," Amanda protested. "I have nowhere to go." I stared at her. This woman who'd abandoned her dying son to sleep with my husband, and felt something cold and final settle in my chest. "You should have. I thought of that before. You decided my bedroom was a good place for your midlife crisis." That's when Amanda said the words that changed everything between us forever. "What did you expect, Sabrina? What can I do if I'm better than you, and he wants me? David wants someone who can actually make him happy." Even David looked uncomfortable with that one, but he didn't contradict her. He just sat there, pulling on his clothes while my sister explained why betraying me was actually my fault. 20 minutes later, they were both packed and gone. Amanda took her designer clothes and her attitude. David took his guilt and his excuses, and I was left standing in my empty house, wondering how the hell I'd gotten here. But here's what they didn't take. They didn't take Ramon. Because that night, when Charlie called to ask if Amanda was coming to say goodnight to her son, I had to tell him the truth. And the next morning, when the social worker asked where Ramon's mother was, I had an answer that was going to change all of our lives. The family court building smells like despair and disinfectant. I'd never been inside one before, but there I was, filing for divorce and petitioning for custody of a kid who wasn't technically mine. The lawyer I hired looked like she could bite through steel cable, which seemed appropriate for what I was about to face. "Your sister is agreeing to this?" Margaret Steinberg asked, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed the paperwork. "She signed the papers without reading them," I said. And that was true. Amanda had been so eager to start her new life with David that she'd barely glanced at the custody documents. "I don't think she really understands what she's giving up," I added. Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Or she understands perfectly and doesn't care." The truth was probably somewhere in between. Amanda had never been maternal. Even when Raman was little, she treated him more like an accessory than a person. Someone to post pictures with, not someone to actually raise. The custody hearing was surreal. Amanda showed up late, wearing sunglasses, indoors like she was hiding from paparazzi instead of facing the consequences of abandoning her child. The judge asked her directly if she was contesting my petition for guardianship. "No, Your Honor," Amanda said, not even looking at Ramon. "I think this arrangement is best for everyone. Everyone meaning her." The judge granted me temporary custody, pending a full evaluation. That temporary custody would become permanent 6 months later when Amanda failed to show up for a single supervised visit. Ramon's recovery was slow but steady. The physical healing was the easy part. It was the emotional wounds that took longer to close. "Why doesn't Mom want me?" he asked. One night, about a month after he came home from the hospital, we were sitting at the kitchen table working on homework he'd missed during his hospital stay. I put down the math worksheet and looked at this brave kid who'd been through so much. "Some people don't know how to love the way they should," I said carefully. "That's not about you. That's about her. But what did I do wrong?" His voice cracked and I felt my heart crack with it. "Nothing, honey. You did absolutely nothing wrong. You are perfect exactly as you are. Your mom, she has problems that have nothing to do with you." Charlie became a fixture in our lives, in a way he never had been when he was married to Amanda. He showed up every Wednesday for dinner. He never missed a school event. When Ramon had nightmares about the hospital, about his mom leaving, about being alone, Charlie was there with me, taking turns sitting with him until he fell back asleep. We were building something neither of us had planned. A family held together not by blood or marriage certificates, but by choice and commitment and stubborn love. Money was tight those first few years. I was working full-time and paying legal fees while trying to give Raman everything he needed. Charlie helped where he could, covering medical co-pays and school meals, fewer fancy vacations, more camping trips in state parks, and somehow through all of it, we were happy. Rayon thrived in ways he never had with Amanda. His grades improved. "Hamad friends." He laughed again. 9 years is a long time, long enough for a scared 13-year-old boy to grow into a confident 22-year-old man. Long enough for wounds to scar over. Long enough to build a life so full that the people who abandon you become footnotes instead of main characters. Raman graduated high school with honors, got a full scholarship to college, decided he wanted to become a doctor, maybe because he'd spent so much time in hospitals as a kid. Whatever their reason, he threw himself into his studies with the kind of determination that comes from understanding how fragile life can be. I watched him grow up with pride and amazement. This kid who'd been so sick, so abandoned, had turned into this incredible young man. He looked like Charlie more than Amanda now. Something about the way he carried himself. Charlie noticed it too. "He's got your stubbornness, though," he'd tell me with a grin. "That's all you." My own life had evolved in unexpected ways. David's betrayal had hurt deeply, but it had also freed me. I threw myself into work, into raising Ramon, into building a life that was mine. And then about 5 years after the divorce, I met Marcus. Marcus was different from David in every way that mattered. He was a high school teacher, patient and thoughtful with laugh lines around his eyes and genuine interest in people. He didn't sweep in trying to be Ramon's father. He just showed up consistently, respectfully, earning trust through time and reliability. Ramon liked him immediately. "He's real," Ramon said after meeting Marcus. Not trying to impress anyone, just being himself. By the time Ramon started medical school, Marcus had become part of our strange little family. Charlie, Marcus, Ramon, and me, we had Sunday dinners together. We celebrated holidays. We showed up for each other in the small daily ways that matter. This was family, I realized. Not the one I'd been born into, but the one we'd chosen and built together. Ramon met Emily during his second year of medical school. She was a nurse in the pediatric ward where he was doing our rotation. I knew she was special the first time he brought her to Sunday dinner. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. Not because she was smart, though she clearly had that covered too. But because of the way she looked at Ramon, like he was exactly enough. Like his past didn't scare her. She knows everything. Ramon told me later helping me wash dishes, while Marcus and Charlie argued about baseball in the living room, about Amanda, about David, about the hospital. All of it. I told her on our second date because I didn't want surprises. And I asked, and she said that the fact I could still trust people, after what I'd been through, told her everything she needed to know about my character. I hugged him. Then, this young man who'd been an abandoned child. "She's right," I said. "You could have become bitter. You could have closed yourself off, but you didn't." "I had good teachers," Ramon said simply, looking out at Charlie and Marcus. "You all showed me what real love looks like." Months later, Ramon called with news that made my heart soar. "I proposed," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. She said, "Yes, we're getting married next spring." "Ramon, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I want you to walk me down the aisle," he said, his voice serious. "You and Charlie together. You're the ones who raised me. You're my parents in every way that matters." The wedding was beautiful. Emily's family welcomed us with open arms, understanding immediately that families come in all configurations and that love is what makes them work. The ceremony was in a garden, late spring flowers blooming everywhere, the air sweet with possibility. I was adjusting Ramon's tie in the groom's room when he went still. "She's here," he said quietly, looking out the window. I followed his gaze and saw Amanda standing at the back of the garden. She looked older, more worn down than when I'd last seen her. She stood there, watching people arrive, watching the happiness she wasn't part of, watching the life that had gone on without her. "Do you want me to have her removed?" asked carefully. This was his day, his choice. Ramon shook his head. "No, let her watch. Let her see what she gave up." The ceremony was perfect. Ramon and Emily exchanged vows, promising to show up for each other through sickness and health, good times and bad. Charlie cried through his father of the groom speech. Marcus squeezed my hand, and somewhere in the back, Amanda watched it all. She approached during the reception, during a quiet moment between dances. "Sabrina," she said softly. "Could I speak with Ramon for just a moment?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Not manipulation, not desperation, but what might have been genuine remorse. "That's not my decision to make," I said quietly. "But Amanda, if you do this, if you approach him on his wedding day, you better be prepared for whatever answer he gives you." She nodded, understanding the weight of what I was saying. Amanda walked slowly toward where Ramon stood, talking with colleagues from the hospital. I watched as she approached him, saw him notice her, saw his expression shift from surprise to something more guarded. They talked for maybe 2 minutes. Then Amanda did something that shocked everyone who was watching. She dropped to her knees in front of her son. "Please." Her voice carried across the reception hall as conversation stopped, and people turned to stare. "Please forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I know I abandoned you when you needed me most, but I'm begging you. Let me try to be part of your life. I need you." The silence was deafening. Every eye in the room was on Ramon, waiting to see what he would do. Ramon looked down at his mother, kneeling at his feet. This woman who'd given birth to him, but never truly mother-thered him. When he spoke, his voice was calm, measured, and clearly audible to everyone watching. "You don't make me lacking anything," he said quietly. "I don't need you in my life, but you are my biological mother, and for that reason alone, I'll give you this. I'll pay for a month at a hotel and give you enough money to get started somewhere else. But I won't support you beyond that. And I won't pretend we have a relationship we've never had." He reached into his jacket and pulled out his checkbook, writing quickly. $10,000. That's more than you ever invested in me, and it's all you'll get. Amanda took the check with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. "Ramon, please use the money to get help," Ramon said firmly. "Find a therapist. Figure out why you run from the people who love you, but leave me in peace. You chose not to be my mother when I needed one. You don't get to choose to be one now when it's convenient for you." Amanda stood slowly, clutching the check. She looked around at all of us, at the family she'd abandoned, at the life she could have had. Then she walked away. This time, Ig knew it was for good. As Ramon kissed his bride, and the crowd erupted in applause, I caught Charlie's eye across the dance floor. He was crying. This tough, steady man who'd chosen to love an abandoned child. Marcus squeezed my hand. Emily's parents beamed with happiness, and Raman's face was radiant with pure joy. This was family. This was home. This was what happened when people chose love over convenience, commitment over comfort, showing up over running away. And somewhere, Amanda was probably still wondering why her son didn't need her anymore, never understanding that he'd stopped needing her the day she stopped showing up. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more stories about chosen families.